I have a follow-up question. So you said, if I knew what I knew now back then, it would have made my life easier. What is that you know now which you didn't know earlier? So what is it making things easier for you now?
Well, that's part of why I did the MOOC, the Massive Open Online Course, was to sort of lay everything down in a very simple, very straightforward, very fun way, and to encapsulate some of the key ideas. First off, if you looked at some of my old books from when I was first learning remedial high school algebra as a 26-year-old, they have all these dimples in the pages. And you may wonder, well, why are all these dimples in the pages? And it's because I get a fork and I get so frustrated, I just stick a fork right in the page, because I was just so frustrated. I was like, how can people write books that can be so deliberately frustrating? And sometimes I'd spend hours looking at a page. I'd tell myself, I'm not going to turn the page until I understand it. If I had just turned the page, it would have come clear. I mean, simple things. Sometimes I would spend hours and hours and hours trying to figure out a problem. And as soon as I would stop, walk away, and go do something else and get my mind off it, the solution would come to me. And did I have to waste all those hours sitting there sweating over it? No, I didn't. I could have gone up to it, maybe frustrated a little bit, then gone to something else, because as it turns out, we have two completely different ways that our brain works. You might think of it this way. There's like a net. There's one net that's very big. It has big meshes in it. So that's like you might think of that as the diffuse mode. And this net, it reaches in many areas of the brain. So it's very widespread. And then there's what we call the task positive network, or focused mode, when you're focusing in. And that has very fine meshes in the net. And so you can only travel around a little part of that network, right? Because it's all very fine, and you can't get very far on that network, because it's just very, very hard to get through all the little meshes. Mm-hmm. So most of the time when you're learning like math, you're focusing in, you're using this focus mode network, and when you get stuck, that usually means you're in the wrong place, at least metaphorically speaking. You want to be using a different pattern. But how do you get to a different pattern? It's pretty far away. You only get to it when you stop thinking, get your brain off of it, get your attention off of that idea, work on something else, go for a walk, do something completely different. That gets your mind off of that first pattern, gets it into the bigger pattern, the diffuse pattern. That allows you to travel to the new place where you need to be in, so that when you return and focus in, then suddenly it makes sense. So learning involves going back and forth between these two different modes of focusing in, then walking away. Now, what's important is when you learn something, so you focus in during the day, and maybe you walk away and come back. But then when you go to sleep at night, what happens is you have new neural connections growing. So you'll have new synapses that form only when you are asleep. So this is why it's important to space out your learning, do a little bit every day rather than cram it all in at once, because when you sleep each night, you're growing new neural architecture. And you can only grow so many, little connections during one evening. So if you space things out, you're growing a nice, solid neural architecture. After a week, you've got quite a bit. If you try to cram it all in one night, you're just going to get a little bit of it. And you're going to have a very poor sort of neural structure of learning. So this is why sleep, or part of why sleep is so important in the learning process. The other part of why sleep is important is that your brain cells shrink during sleep, and that allows for the engineering types. It's like it allows the cerebral fluids to wash by and wash the metabolic toxins that have arisen during the day, and allows them to wash away. So sleep is important also because it's the time when your brain cells shrink a little bit, allows the toxins to wash away, and then you wake up refreshed. You never want to take a big test without getting any sleep, because it's like taking a test with a poisoned brain. So these are some of the important ideas, I think, related to how to learn effectively.